Not only do these guys give you the best Jazz coverage in the market, they've got you covered with the Mammoth, the Cougars, the Utes, and the Aggies. This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Covering the Utes better than anyone else, this is Utes Insider Steve Bartle of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Man, it's been a busy couple of days. Big 12 Media Days come and go down there at Frisco, Texas. It was awesome. I'm so proud of our KSL Sports family for all of the great coverage. The TV station was down there in full force when others weren't, and we had a full crew from KSLSports.com covering everything, which is so great to be able to do that on top of hopefully the stellar radio coverage we gave you. And a big part of that, of course, he covers the Utes for KSLSports.com, and he was down there in Frisco getting great content. He's our buddy Steve Bartle. What's going on, Steve?
Jake, what's up, man? How you doing, brother?
I'm good. You had kind of a fun thing going. You were having everybody putt. You had a little putting green down there. You had your putter. Who had the best stroke? Who knocked it down?
Honestly, I think the best was Swoop. Like, he grabbed the putter and, like, took a quick look at it, let it fly, and sunk it. Like everybody else, Morgan grabbed the putter. He was one of the first ones to grab. He was the first one to actually grab the putter yesterday, and took two putts and missed both. And it was just a good time. Like, that was, just to kind of build off your intro, talking about KSL and having everybody down there. It was recognized. People recognized our effort down there, and it was really cool to talk with people and how much they appreciated, all of us being down there. So it was a really good time. We had a lot of fun and generated, I hope, a lot of good content for both in-state programs.
Well, Steve, I'll kind of let you decide where to start. I mean, what did we learn down there on the Utah side?
An interesting experience, right, with Utah, because it was Morgan Scalley's first media day. It was, kind of the beginning, not necessarily the official beginning, right? That was his intro press conference back in January, but this was a significant point in Morgan Scalley's career, and I think there was a lot of intrigue around how he would sound, what would he say, and just how he would conduct himself. And I think when you look at all the interviews and you listen to his interviews with us on KSL and other interviews elsewhere, like, he was Morgan, right? Like, he was just himself, and I thought really made a good impression. I was talking with a handful of media members from other markets, towards the tail end of the activities yesterday, and each of them had a lot of really good things to say about Morgan. They came away impressed with how he handled himself. So, he's as sharp as a tack, and he just coaches, lives with a ton of energy, and I think that came through yesterday with Morgan. And then, talking with the players, they went through all of yesterday's media day with a lot of excitement, a lot of energy as well. They seemed to really enjoy it, talking about Devin Dampier and Wayshawn Parker, Lance Hosquan, and Jonathan Hall, who were the four representatives for Utah that they brought down. And it was good just to kind of see them, down there with all of the other top athletes from other programs, and just kind of interacting with one another and seeing them enjoy the moment, enjoy the opportunity. I think that was the thing that was, really fun to see. And that's the case for a lot of athletes down there, right? And so, from those things, you come away feeling pretty optimistic about sort of what's going on with Morgan's program, right? I think he shared a lot of really good thoughts, good opinions. on how he's going to move forward. A lot of questions were centered around the new era of Utah football under him, and he wasn't shy to say that they're going to hang on to the core principles that Kyle Whittingham found a lot of success with, because that's just good football, right? So he wasn't afraid to acknowledge that and talk about it and give credit to Kyle Whittingham in any sort of way, and still, I think, made it clear that he's putting his own stamp on this program. And, it starts with kind of how they're doing things differently and how they're operating internally. When you're talking about the strength and conditioning program, they made a change after spring ball, and they've now got a new strength and conditioning head coach that operates just a little bit differently than what they've done over the last 2 decades. With who they had in place there. So just just assessing those guys and how they kind of conducted themselves, I think they came away really, really impressive yesterday.
One thing I learned that I thought was pretty interesting, Steve, and I'm curious to your reaction. We had Devin Dampier on, and he talked about how Morgan made it a priority when hiring an offensive coordinator that coordinator would be willing to, I guess, I don't know how we put it, center the offense or highlight the quarterback or basically adjust what the coordinator was going to do to the strengths of Devin Dampier. And I thought that was an interesting little nugget.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a focal point for Morgan in his OC search. When Kevin McGivern was hired, I got a quick message shortly after it was announced that a key factor for McGivern was the fact that there was, similar, terminology with the offense, but that it was centered more around the quarterback position and less around the run game. And I think, for Devin Dampier and for Bird Ficklin, the two top priorities for Utah, when going through all of that transition, hanging on to both of those guys, that was a major point of emphasis for Morgan to them was, hey, we know that we need to change sort of how we're perceived at that quarterback position. And I think Kevin McGivern's offense, and talking with Devin and with some of the other players throughout the offseason, and which continued yesterday, is they're really excited about what this offense can be. Some of the upgrades they made in that wide receiver room, I think, are really going to, show through this season with that offense and how it's going to, get multiple receivers not only on the field, but get them involved and creating opportunities for different receivers, designating certain looks for different receivers. I think that's going to be a drastic change from what the offense was under Beck last season. And, I asked Dampier about what having, multiple wide receivers on the field, what that does for him. And he talked about it obviously spreads the defense out. It kind of adjusts coverage and as a quarterback, it's just a big time comfort. And he's been working hard this offseason, with his receivers. Took a group of them down to Arizona to train with them specifically just to kind of build that chemistry with them. And there's a lot of excitement around what this passing offense can be. And what was interesting, when I asked Dev that question, he was sitting next to Wayshawn, and he said, he chimed in and said, those receivers are also going to impact the running game because they're going to demand extra attention, at those second and third levels. And that's going to open things up for the run game. So, it's kind of an interesting conversation with the offense and what those wide receivers can do. And I think, again, it's all getting back to that original point you brought up, that everything is sort of been tailored to Dev and to that quarterback position, and Morgan's message around needing to sort of change how Utah is perceived at that quarterback spot.
When we did our voting for preseason, I guess since they don't do a preseason Big 12 media poll anymore, I know we did one internally. Where do you have the top of the league ranked right now? We won't hold your feet to the fire later, but at the moment, where do you have the top of the league ranked?
3, I have Texas Tech still number 1. Just given their schedule, like it's it's a snooze fest once they get past that Houston game.
Yeah.
So even if they lose that, like I just feel like they're going to be in a position to still find a way into that Big 12 championship game, and by that time you're thinking Will Hammond is going to be a bit quite a bit more healthy and all that sort of stuff. So I still have Texas Tech number 1, and they've got a lot of pieces. They've got a lot of good talent throughout that roster. The offensive line, they've got a couple of experienced starters coming back, and they've got a great running back in Dickey that I think, just kind of given how their schedule is and the fact that they have a strong offensive line and running back, I voted Dickey as the offensive player of the year this year because I just sort of envisioned Texas Tech really leaning into the run game more so than we saw last year. So Texas Tech number 1, I have BYU number 2. The obvious runner-up last year to Texas Tech. They've got, certainly some questions at that wide receiver position, but they bring back a lot offensively. I tried to find a way to get 2 BYU offensive linemen on my preseason all-conference list because I do think that BYU offensive line is going to be pretty tough. And then I have Utah 3rd. I just think with what we saw in spring ball and, what they're bringing back in Devin Dampier, who, in talking with a lot of media members, again, about him, a lot of people consider him top 3 and a lot of people consider him top 2, with Noah Fafita, in the Big 12. So if Dev has the sort of year that I think he's capable of in this offense, he was still 3,200 total yards last year, 34 total touchdowns, and was not fully healthy, was 15 pounds overweight because Whittingham likes his quarterbacks to have a little fat around him, a little cushion when they take those hits. But Dev's, he's healthy, he's fully recovered from his injuries, and he's also dropped 10 pounds that he was carrying last year. So I'm interested to see how that translates in his game, and obviously the offensive line is going to be a big question mark for him. But I think just with the receivers, they're going to be able to kind of overcome some of those issues with the O-line. So those are my top 3. And then, I can't remember exactly how I placed them, but my next 3 was Arizona, Houston, and Kansas State. And I think I put Kansas State maybe even 5th with Arizona 6th and Houston 4th. Arizona's schedule is sneaky tough. And that's going to be a big factor in kind of determining the Big 12 race this season. It always is, right? The strength of schedule in the league and who kind of emerges, that's always a big factor. And so those 2 Arizona schools, Arizona State and Arizona, have really tough schedules from a travel perspective, but then just they're going on the road to some tough places. And so I think I put Kansas State ahead of them because it's the exact opposite. And I think Colin Klein going there as the head coach, and I was impressed listening to him, very mature head coach for his age. I think I'm interested, and I believe that he's going to do a lot of good for Avery Johnson. There's a lot of talent there, but still just the mishaps and the poor decisions have come at really costly times for Johnson in Kansas State. But I can't remember the exact number, but you look at their results last year, I think they had 7 or 8 games that were one-score losses. And a lot of those, much like the Utah game, if you remember last year, were fourth-quarter comebacks. So they're in these games. It's just been a mistake here and a mistake there that's cost them. And I just think with some of the schedule fortune that they have a pretty easy schedule, that they're going to be one of those teams that goes from, the worst to first type of conversation like we've seen over the last couple of years. So that's my top 6, Texas Tech, BYU, Utah, and then Arizona, Kansas State, and Houston in some order that I can't remember exactly.
This is kind of a follow-up to that, and I do want to. I'll ask you in a minute about Mark Harlan being down there, but a follow-up to what you're talking about with the scheduling. I wish they'd do some sort of divisions, and I wish they would schedule different, because with this huge of a league, the schedule is such a crapshoot. You're totally right. You know, one year you're going to get Murderers Row, and one year you're not going to play anybody. I mean, Texas Tech's schedule is one hard game and nothing. I don't know. I wish they'd adjust that.
No, totally. I totally agree with you. Like, I wish there was a better scheduling matrix that they could provide the conference, because again, it just you just get these teams, and with Texas Tech, it's obvious, right? They're just so much better than everybody else on their schedule. It's just it's going to be pretty easy for them. But then you have other programs that really have difficult schedules for a variety of reasons, not just within the conference, but that are overloaded with the top teams in the conference. So, I wish there was a way to kind of get some greater clarity, greater, spreading sort of the difficulty throughout the conference. I do wish that was something that can be figured out and addressed here in the near future.
So to say that Utah has had, I would say that they've had a controversial last 6 months or so with the Otro deal, and then some negative headlines that came along with that. And I thought that Mark Harlan was smart to go to Big 12 Media Days, to get in front of it, to get out in front of everybody and sell the direction. It may be controversial, but he obviously believes in it and needs to communicate why. And listen, I may not agree with it, because I still don't, but I actually thought he did a really good job selling it.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? We've kind of seen with college athletics, private equity has been something that's been talked about more and more over the last couple of years. And for Utah, being the first program to welcome it, the first one through the wall always gets bloody, right? Like that's just kind of like what this is Utah embracing it, looking for it. And I think when you actually take a step back and you get over your initial reaction of private equity is bad and that sort of stuff, when you take a step back and you look at how Utah put this all together, right? They took time to find a partner that would help them with the business side of things, that would help kind of not just necessarily operating as a chop shop, but more so kind of genuinely investing, not just money, but time and resources to kind of help build, a company off the ground, right? To kind of help build it from the foundation up. And that's what Utah has done here is they've found a partner in Otro Capital, and they've formed the LLC, the Crimson Brand Partners. And this is, in a lot of ways, I've talked about this a lot, where, we're just seeing sort of college athletics becoming more and more of a professional model. And to me, with this move, Utah has taken that next step in that transformation of college athletics, where, it is the Crimson Brand Partners is to operate all of the commercial operations and really turn it into a professional type of operation. And that means, it's more so than just ticket sales and calling your biggest boosters for donations. It's going out and looking for those corporate sponsors. And now with how they've set it up, there are some real opportunities for Utah to find some great partners and great corporate sponsorships that they just couldn't do operating as they were before. A couple weeks ago, I had Ben Portnoy of the Sports Business Journal on my podcast, and he kind of said it kind of perfectly. He said that, college athletics has operated like a mom and pop shop, just from operating since the 50s, the same old way, right? Ticket sales, your booster donations. That's how it's always sort of been. And yet they're doing sales and marketing like a Coca-Cola corporation, because people just love watching college football, and that's because of the TV money investment and all of that sort of stuff, that it's suddenly just this incredibly lucrative sport. And I think programs are starting to realize that they have to change how they're operating to keep up with the financial demands that these college programs are dealing with. And it's not just NIL. It is, everything. It is the game experience for fans, right? The entertainment you're watching at halftime, in between quarters, all of that. All of these things are products of kind of what's been created, and just it speaks to the money demands and the financial demands that these programs have to now encounter, and they have to find ways beyond just donations from your boosters to generate the revenue to continue operating like this. And, another point that Portnoy made with me was that the most important thing that these college athletic programs can do to ensure their future in whatever college football is going to be in 5 or 10 years is continuing to have success in football, because football is the entire engine of this revenue. And so, Utah's had success recently, and they've seen the benefits of a successful football program. Winning those back-to-back Pac-12 titles, that led to a significant uptick, not only in terms of the revenue that they brought in, but also, academically with the student enrollment and the quality of students that were applying at Utah. Like, it's just, it has such a significant impact when you have a successful program that's on TV, that's playing in big games. And for Utah, obviously going back to the Crimson Brown Partners, that is the main focus here, is making sure that they have all the financial resources available to them to continue to be, a top competitor in the Big 12 and continuing to compete in the top 25 nationally.
Last thing before I let you go, Steve, it's fun to go to those events because there's always a buzz about some certain topic. And to me, it was a throwback to the old Mountain West Conference media days where BYU strutted around like they owned the place, and the topic was always how obnoxious BYU was. And I felt like it was the exact same thing, except for instead of BYU, it was Texas Tech. Everybody hates Texas Tech, and Texas Tech being incredibly obnoxious the whole time. Did you get that vibe?
Yeah, no, totally. They have definitely embraced the villain role. I was talking with some Texas Tech beat writers, and they even acknowledged that, there's a different sort of, I don't want to call it swagger, but a different way in which they're carrying themselves and talking about the coaches and some of the players. They know what they are, and they know that they've got the target on their backs, and they're not shy to let everybody know, as you saw with Cody Campbell's statement to whoever it was, I think it was Pete Thamel, about them kind of leading the way in the Big 12 and everybody else needing to catch up and and all that. And it's just like, man, just take the mic away from Cody Campbell for a minute. Let us breathe for a while,
right? And
just but yeah, to your point, I think everybody kind of felt that same way, picked up on the same vibes around with Texas Tech, is that they have embraced that sort of villainous role and really are kind of reveling in it. Like they're enjoying it, they're loving it, because they feel like nobody can really stop them right now. And frankly, that's when things get dangerous for you. And that was for Utah, going back to the Pac-12 days, that was USC, right? That was always USC. And then eventually Utah got over that hurdle, and that became a really competitive back and forth. And I think it's only a matter of time before, these other programs like Utah and BYU continue to make that rivalry with Texas Tech, a bit more of a back and forth between the two programs.
Well, listen, Steve, it was fun to hang out with you down there. You did great work, and I really appreciate you jumping on with me today, even though I know you're moving around and traveling and all that stuff. So seriously, you're the best, dude. I really appreciate it.
And appreciate you, dude. It was fun to be down there with you, and everybody else. Like I said, really proud of what we did at KSL Sports. Everybody did a great job contributing to it all, and fun. So appreciate you, dude. And anytime you need me on, I'll hop back on next week if you need me to, dude. So
I'll put up the Bartle signal. It doesn't work as well as bat signal, but I don't know. I'll think of something better next time.
Yeah. You got it, dude.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, man.
There you go. The one and only Steve Bartle covers the Utes for KSLSports.com. He was part of the contingent down there covering Big 12 Media Days like nobody else. Again, awesome. KSL Sports was represented in full force. I mean, the TV guys, Jeremiah, Sam, Sly down there doing their thing. I know they're kind of doing an extra podcast thing, too, that they got a ton of content for. I think we had 4 guys down there from KSLSports.com. That were covering everything from the podium to little extra content videos and those sorts of things. And then 4 of us from radio, not to mention our on-site engineer, Stone Johnson, who was all over nabbing interviews for us. So, I mean, we sent everybody down there in full force, hopefully to get the best coverage out there for you, which, of course, you can find all of it at KSLSports.com. Man, Morocco's just giving way, Christian. The French are all over it. Just scored their second. 2-0. France over Morocco. What's his name? Mbappe got at least one of them. I know that's your guy.
Yeah, he's pretty exciting. They just put up a stat. I guess 17 of his 20 World Cup goals have been after halftime.
Closer.
Mr. Clutch.
Yeah. Can wear the red jacket. The red jacket's for closers. No, it's coffee's for closers. The red jacket, that was The Simpsons. You don't get any of either
no,
of
that
those
went,
references. No,
that took one of these, you know.
Yeah, it did. One of those. Yeah, Christian likes the stories where I look dumb. Hopefully everybody does. All right, stay tuned. We'll have more next. We'll talk some Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonsa, Summer League going down tonight. Obviously, Darren Peterson making a big-time impression on the NBA world so far in his first 2 games in Salt Lake City. We'll get to it all coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.